Hello fans and welcome to Indoor War Weekly. I am your host Chris Yao. I would like to first start out by apologizing for last week. I wasn't able to get a show produced. This week there's no producing involved. I'm just uploading this one straight as it is in the simple set. No jerseys, no helmet. We're just doing this one. Pretty much we're roughing this one. Not a big deal, not a big deal. Hope you can hear me. If not, we may try to redo this one. Otherwise, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes so I don't have to put it in two parts. I know that's ridiculous, but let's see what we can do. Let's review last week first. We'll start out with the Friday night games. We had Spokane at Utah. Utah was at one point a 3-point favorite in this game. Pretty difficult line making apparently, but that was pretty much a given that Utah couldn't cover a 3-point spread at home. Nobody really knew a lot about Utah. They just knew that there wasn't a whole lot of AFL talent there. Spokane went in there, doubled them up 68-34. Not really a whole lot you can say about this game other than Utah is going to have to find something to get their team on track, or it's going to be a long year out in Salt Lake. The other game not televised on the NFL Network was Alabama hosting Jacksonville. The Vipers scored 63 points in a 63-49 victory over the Sharks. Dan Alexander, league's leading rusher by far, and he had 4 touchdowns in this game, 5 touchdowns last week. He's got 9 touchdowns through 2 weeks, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. Jacksonville's Aaron Garcia had a pretty good game. He threw 5 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions, one that was returned for a touchdown, and another that set up the Vipers to go up by 2 touchdowns. So not a great week for Aaron Garcia. He's really going to have to step it up in the coming weeks. Alabama, big win at home over Jacksonville, and the Vipers will be taking on Utah this week, actually. In the NFL Network game of the week, pretty good matchup. Probably one of the best games I've seen in a long time. Chicago over Cleveland. Chicago 59, Cleveland 56. It came down to the last second, and had a great game on NFL Network. Very fun to watch. Cleveland just couldn't have they had the ball last. They just couldn't get it across the goal line at the end of the game. Chicago did a very good job. Had one pretty bad call. John Dutton had 3 interceptions. The fumble probably kept this game exciting. The fumble that was not really a fumble on Sammy Parker, who by the way had a great ball game as well. To Saturday, Tulsa at home over Dallas had a spectacular game. One of the craziest matchups. It could be some implications coming for the post-game activities from Dallas and Tulsa. We'll see what happens. We're not really sure what's going to happen, but a lot of extracurricular things going on after the game. But Tulsa did win the game 63-59, proving that the Talons are for real. Other game on Saturday night was Bossier Shreveport hosting Orlando. Bossier moves to 2-0 on the year. Orlando to 0-1, losing 73-67. Ray Filial had 9 touchdown passes, but the real story was P.J. Berry. His 14 receptions for 201 yards and 6 touchdowns was spectacular, as well as returning the ball 4 times for 100 yards, 25-yard average return. That's really impressive. Orlando just didn't have enough mustard at the end to pull it out. Let's move on to the players of the week. My players of the week, P.J. Berry. He and Chris Gold of Chicago. Gold was 8 for 8 on extra points, and he had the game-winning field goal. So you got to give him got to give the kicker props there. But P.J. Berry with his 301 total all-purpose yards and 6 touchdowns is really something special. P.J. Berry always been a special football player, and this year's no different. That brings us to the Indoor War Weekly poll. The poll this week is usually 8 teams this week. We've got a tie in the 8th spot. I just really couldn't keep myself from putting one team in. But we'll check it out. Number 1, you got to go with the Milwaukee Iron. They had a bye week this week, but Milwaukee is probably the best team in this league, and quite frankly, they deserve to be number 1. Number 2, the Tulsa Talons. You can't argue with 2 wins over former AFL teams, kind of. Dallas was widely projected to be the best team in the league, and they took care of business at home. Tulsa did. And they beat Tampa Bay last week. You can't argue with that whatsoever. Number 3, Chicago. Chicago's 2-0. They defeated Iowa. Iowa spotted them 17 points with Brian Villanueva. So I really have a hard time thinking that, how could that game have been different? So I put Chicago at number 3 because they did beat Cleveland, but they only beat them by 3. And the next team, Arizona, beat Cleveland. Even though Cleveland was up 35-14 at one point, Arizona did win, and they're pulling in at number 4. So Milwaukee, Tulsa, Chicago, and Arizona. Rounding out the top 5 is Dallas. They're 0-1, but they're still a great football team. You can't argue with that. A lot of people will say, well, this team's 1-1 or this team's 2-0. Why aren't they in the top 5? Well, I try to put this into perspective. The fact that I'm not talking, I don't go by record. Record has nothing to do with my rankings. This ranking is by the top 8 or 9 teams that I feel are the best teams in the league. Yeah, of course, there's 15 teams in the league, so who knows? You can't really exclude some records, but for a top 8 or 9, this is the best we can do. In the 5th spot is Dallas. Number 6 is Spokane. Spokane played very well against Milwaukee. Deserves to be in the top 8. At home they had Milwaukee on the ropes, and they just destroyed Utah. So you got to give Spokane some credit there. Number 7, I've got Bossier City. They're 2-0. They beat Alabama and they beat Orlando. Not sure. They beat Alabama asterisk. They did beat Orlando. Not sure how big of a win that is at this point, but they are 2-0. They have to be in there. Number 8, the ties between Cleveland and Alabama. Cleveland is 0-2, but their 2 losses are to Chicago and Arizona. They had Arizona on the ropes. They were up 35-14 at one point. Chicago, they played them very well, lost to them by 3 points. So, and Alabama 1-1, lost to Bossier Shreveport asterisk, and defeated Jacksonville this week in a convincing fashion by